White again. Okay, I'll play e4. Are we gonna have the same opening? No, we have a more standard knight c6. I'll play the Italian, bishop c4. Knight f6 and bishop c5 are the two most common moves. And here I'll play d3. I played this in the previous episode. One of the most solid moves. Not going into the knight g5 lines, which are playable, but maybe I'll save them for future opponents. So we see kind of a weird move, knight b4, which definitely violates a few principles. Like it's moving away from the center. It's not really attacking anything. It's also moving the same piece twice. And it's leaving the pawn on e5 undefended. So gonna show no mercy here. Hopefully in this game I can more cleanly convert the early extra pawn advantage. Nice thing about knight takes e5 is now I'm threatening knight takes f7 or bishop takes f7. So black has to be very, very careful. I think the only reasonable move is pawn d5, which we do see. I wonder if this is like some weird prepared gambit, like open the center and try and exploit my knight. But I think everything is under control. I can take. And there's actually a cool idea. If black were to play queen e7, I would have castled. Said, oh no, my knight, and then rook e1 would win the queen. Very common motif when the e-file's open. In this case, I think I'm still happy to castle. I mean, it was tempting to maybe consider queen f3, but I think it's better to get the king safe, have the option for rook e1 or queen f3 next move. And yeah, the downside of this knight coming into my territory and not really attacking anything, anytime I want, I can play a move like a3, and black will have to spend time moving back. So here, yeah, my knight seems to be attacked, but I don't need to defend it because I have rook e1. So I could like be tricky and play a move that doesn't defend the knight. But I think in this case, like rook e1, it's just a good move to include. Like rooks are happy on open files. I'm also aligning with a king, which is not castled yet. Black should definitely put a bishop like on e6 or e7. If we see bishop e7 or bishop e6, then it still takes work for white. I was thinking about queen f3 hitting the pawn, but I don't want to make things messy. Like queen f3, there's knight takes c2, and even if I win f7, and that line could be good for white, but generally when you're up material, you want to try and keep things simple. So I would very much like to develop, I like the move knight c3. Just applying more pressure to the center. In some sense, this knight is pinned to the f7 pawn. So if black takes on c3, I can then take on f7 and then capture back. But okay, black is leaving the knight here. So if I take, it's just a trade. Yeah, I'm looking for like the forcing moves. So obviously the capture is on d5. A move like knight b5 attacking the queen could be interesting. Also a3. I don't think there's any like easy way to win material. But I kind of like this move a3. Because if this knight moves right away, then I just win the knight on d5. So black will probably have to take first. I'll take back. And then if we see a move like knight c6, I could either trade or develop the bishop. But so far, it's just been about kind of keeping control, making sure my pieces are getting optimized. We see f6, so now, yeah, now it looks complicated because both knights are hanging, but if we simply think ahead a couple moves, I take this knight, black takes this knight, then this knight will be undefended. Knight's also pinned after f6, so yeah, black is asking for trouble. Now, do I want to take with the bishop or the knight? I think both moves are completely acceptable. Drawn more towards taking with the bishop, just immediately checking the king. And now my pawn is attacked. I could defend it, or I could just leave it on b4 and try and generate threats on the king side. I think in this case, there's no reason to give back the pawn. Like, queen h5 is tempting. But then queen takes b4, and I'd rather just be materialistic, at least for a move. Hold on to the pawn. And there is a cool idea. When I play b5, I'm opening the fourth rank. So there are ideas of rook a4 and then swinging over someday. But after c6, okay, I'll take. And now the bishop can find a happy place on e4. The bishop is very nice here. Pressures the king side, but still the queen side as well. And yeah, going forward from here, there are a few different strategies. And we've seen a lot of cases throughout the speedrun where I'm up material and the strategy is usually either to trade or to attack. And I think this position probably calls for attacking, just because, yeah, my queen can come to h5. I'm already threatening mate in 1. And I have the bishop, the other bishop, both pointed towards the king side. There's also potential to lift the rook over. There's not too many moves for black to defend. Like, sometimes pawn moves like h6 or g6 create more weaknesses. And the queen can't really defend because my bishops control g6 and h6. So I think black has to move one of these pawns. Ooh, okay, so the king is trying to run. Now it's a choice. Do I take the pawn with the queen or the bishop? And yeah, one move is definitely much more clearly winning than the other. And both moves are winning, but yeah, it's better to take with the bishop, not giving the chance for the king to run to f7, essentially forcing the king back here. And then it's a very simple mate in 2. We'll see if checkmate plays out on the board. Yeah, so the key move here is bishop g6. Discover check, cutting off any potential queen blocks, and controlling f7. So after king g8, queen h7 will be checkmate. Yeah, this mating pattern can come up a lot, and especially in kingside attacks. Opponent taking their time, but yeah, there's only one legal move. So I think this game was definitely more controlled than the first game. But yeah, hopefully some lessons to take away. I mean, my opponent very clearly violated some opening principles early on. I won a pawn, but it still took work. And it was a matter of kind of being patient, improving, developing, and then seizing the opportunity to win material. And then understanding that sometimes the best strategy is just to go straight for the king. Yeah, queen h5. If my opponent played a move like h6, it still would have taken like patience to win this. Like, I can't sack immediately because the queen can take back. So I'm not sure what I would have done. Like, maybe a move like bishop e3, just very solid developing move. optimize further. There's also an idea like to maneuver the knight e2 to g3, and maybe eventually to f5. The knight's not actually doing much on c3, so sometimes in the middle game you want to look for the pieces that aren't doing much and try and make them do something. Alternatively, there's an idea of bishop g6 and then knight e4 to centralize the knight. So yeah, perhaps it would have been more of a fight if black played h6 or g6.